Right, moving on, over 6 months since the August general elections, allies of President William Ruto seem to have backpedaled on their push for investigations into the 2022 elections and state capture amid rising concerns that it could be counterproductive. Many Kenyans are yet to come to light or not really transpired in the whole electoral process. Bushebi Jr. prepared that story. Let's listen in.
Over 6 months after the 2022 presidential polls, many Kenyans are yet to come to light on what transpired in the whole electoral process. Allies of President William Ruto seem to have backpedaled on their push for investigations into the 2022 elections and state capture amid rising concerns that it could be counterproductive.
That conversation started with the president telling us that there were people who wanted to kill Chebukati. And of course, that caused quite a bit of anguish and fear within the Kenyan population. And of course, there have been people who've been challenging and saying, you know, when you're the president, you need to now take action. I mean, I saw Jimmy Wanjigi saying people need to get arrested and things like that. That was one part of the conversation. Immediately thereafter, Kioni, SG of our party Jubilee, came up and decided, even he has an explosion, he has something to say. And he came up with these results that showed that Raila won the last election and that IEBC was basically manipulated to give out the election to somebody else. This conversation about IEBC, my position, first we need to move on. The thing about politics is that you work with what you have, even as you strive to get something else. We work with the reality of what we have. And I think the reality as far as Kenyans are concerned is that the last election is over.
The move is seen as likely to scaffold the Kenya Kwanza government after the National Security Advisory Committee NSAC had been sucked into the events leading to the August 15th, 2022 declaration of the presidential results.
Hii serikali inanuka. Serikali inanuka.
The president has equally gone slow on the establishment of a judicial commission to probe alleged state capture by former head of state President Uhuru Kenyatta and his Jubilee government, which President Ruto promised to set up within 30 days after being sworn into office.
We have agreed to tackle runaway corruption, including state capture, budgeted corruption, and financial wastage. We have agreed that we will guarantee universal health coverage for all Kenyans, where each and one of us will have a cover, and the public hospitals will be stocked, and necessary equipment and medicines will be available. We've agreed that we will arrest the draining public debt through forensic identification of wasteful borrowing for non-essential expenditure, so as to reduce the snowballing high taxation. These measures will provide relief and space for initiation of the Kenya Kwanza Guaranteed Comprehensive Flagship Programs.
The most important thing is to ensure that whatever changes are made represent the country, balance the country, all Kenyans feel represented. But I suspect that even if it had been a different government, we would have seen some of these changes. And also, a lesson to learn here for the public servants. I hope that we have learned that a government changes and public sector is not supposed to change. So that as we move into the next dimension, I think what I expect is going to happen. We're going to have a lot more professionalism, but also a lot less loyalty to the system. We have a situation where people who are loyal to the Uhuru system are being punished because the Uhuru government lost. I suspect this particular government, I suspect Ruto is going to have a lot less loyalty for the people working for him because of the fear that if something happened and he changes and he's no longer the president, the next guy is going to come after him. So I hope to see more professionalism and a lot less partisanship in how the government is going to serve us in coming days. Professionalism is good for us because it means you serve us equally no matter where we come from, but it's bad for the government in office because then the people you are working with in public service are really not your people. They are serving you because you're in office, and they're going to serve the next person, which is actually how first world countries work. Public service is independent and non-partisan.
The president, alongside opposition leader Raila Odinga, had pushed for plans for the formation of an inquiry into the conduct of last year's elections, as suggested by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC), but there are reports that the head of state had developed cold feet, as the move could be a double-edged sword.
Hawa watu mnaona ahadi ambayo walisema ati mimi nikiweka Biblia chini mna hii, baada ya wiki mbili bei ya unga itarudi chini. Imerudi chini? Imerudi chini? Bei ya mafuta je? Bei ya nauli ya matatu je? Si kila kitu imepanda? Haya yote ni ahadi ambayo Bwana Ruto alipeana Wakenya. Tunajua Kenya wako na shida mingi wakati huu. Wako na shida kiuchumi. Kwa sababu gani? Bwana Ruto hakujua ya kwamba angeweza kushinda uchaguzi. Alikuwa anatoa yale ahadi, maana yake alikuwa anajua atakuwa na jukumu ya kutimiza. Lakini bahati yake huyu bwana anaitwa Bwana Chebukati. Simuona Bwana Chebukati? Chebuchetha. Simuliona? Simuliona nyinyi? Bwana Chebukati anakuja, anasema mimi niko na matokeo. Wale makomishona waende nasema hapana, sisi tuko na matokeo mengine. Anakataa ati mimi ndiye mwenyekiti, yale ambayo mimi nitasema ndio ukweli. Akaenda akatangaza yale mambo yake. Lakini wale commissioners wanne ndio walikuwa wanasema ukweli. Sasa wale commissioners wanne ambao wamesema ukweli wameshtakiwa. Wametimuliwa kutolewa huko nje. Tunaelewa sawa? Wakati hatuwezi kukubali Kenya irudishe katika hali ile ambayo tulitokea. Tunataka Wakenya wasimame imara. Na vijana tunataka vijana wasimame imara.
The outcome of the inquest, which has also been requested by former IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati, could also be counterproductive to the commission if the fresh revelations by a whistleblower on the August 9th, 2022 results indicating Mr. Odinga won the polls are anything to go by.
Lakini yule whistleblower ametoa ukweli. Ile ukweli ambayo jamaa ametoa, sisi wenyewe vile tumekagua na wataalamu kutoka ng'ambo. Hayo ni matokeo ya kwamba Bwana Ruto alipata kura 5,900,000. 5.9 million votes. Sisi tulipata kura 8,100,000. Lana vizuri. Mwelewa hiyo maneno. Kwa hivyo hata waseme nini, tulisema sisi hatuwezi kutambua serikali ya Bwana Ruto.
This is a negotiation that is going on between the opposition and the government. And why do I say this? My opinion, for the first time in the history of this country, we have an IEBC that literally doesn't have any commissioner. And we have a president who now has the capacity to actually constitute IEBC the way he wants. This is very good if you are on Ruto's side and if you are on the government side, because he can actually determine what kind of character and shape that IEBC is going to have. And I think this is a problem, because the first thing that the president has done is to explain to us that what IEBC requires is somebody like Chebukati, somebody who is not scared, somebody who is firm, somebody who can stand against pressure. That is an image that the government side has been trying to portray of Chebukati. That's why he has been given awards. That's why he's been fitted. That's why he's been celebrated. They want to create a profile of the kind of person they want in the next IEBC. On the other hand, the opposition has decided, apana, we are not going to allow you to determine the next IEBC. We're going to challenge everything you say. And what you saw from Kioni, what I expect we're going to hear from Raila when he does his meeting in the course of this coming week, what I expect you're going to hear is a challenge to that profile that has been developed by the government. And now opposition is going to come and start saying, no, Chebukati was a bad man, Chebukati is an evil person. I have had very many heavy words used against him. Because this conversation is not about Chebukati. This conversation is actually not about IEBC as we know it. This conversation is about the IEBC that is coming, that will determine the 2027 election. So what we are seeing is what the government side decided how they want to craft the IEBC, and the opposition side challenging how IEBC is going to be crafted. Unfortunately, the example being used is the last election. So we have Chebukati as a profile. One side says this is the kind of person we want. The other side has to counter and say this is the kind of person we do not want. So as this IEBC conversation goes on, I wish it was possible to not do it in a way that politicizes the process, in a way that divides Kenyans. Because now what we have done is that there's a very...
Former United Democratic Alliance chairperson Johnson Muthama last week told the press that the probe wasn't a priority. He said, and I quote, "Forming a commission of inquiry now is not urgent, but it is the discretion of the president because he's the one being asked to form it." End of quote. Mr. Odinga had also backed the plans for the inquest into the 2022 polls, even calling for an independent audit of IEBC servers to ascertain claims by a whistleblower that he won the elections with 8,170,353 votes, consuming 57.3% against Dr. Ruto's 5,915,973, consuming 41.66%. President Ruto had in January indicated that he would set up a judicial commission to probe state capture in the previous regime, but would deal with other pressing issues first. But Maisha Television understands during the president's recent meeting with Jubilee legislators at State House in Nairobi, the MPs urged him to stop persecuting former President Uhuru Kenyatta, which could signal an end to the inquiry plans. Legislators in Dr. Ruto's Kenya Kwanza Alliance have been rooting for the formation of an inquest to probe going on at the Bomas of Kenya last year, just hours before Mr. Chebukati declared Dr. Ruto the president-elect, but others seem to have started developing cold feet after Mr. Odinga also backed such calls.
Tunakuambia Ruto ya kwamba Bwana Moi alijaribu hiyo yote lakini alishindwa. Wewe utashindwa kuliko Moi. Wakenya wako macho. Si mko tayari? Si mko tayari? Bwana Ruto anaweza kutisha nyinyi? Anaweza? Anaweza? Ndio sababu mimi nimemwambia wewe uache mambo hii. Utawala ya dhuluma na kimabavu tulizika. Iko ndani ya kaburi.
Kenya Kwanza Alliance said the president intends to run a united country and is not interested in exacting revenge on anyone. Orange Democratic Movement has insisted on the need for a commission to unearth the truth about what transpired in the elections. For Maisha Prime, Maisha Television, I'm Bushebi Jr.